going to have friend of the stream Tin Fang Wan playing his Temur Otters deck, going up against Alwyn, who actually haven't seen since one of our modern RCQs a little while ago, packing that Domain Overlords list.
Yeah, Alwyn was really big into Boros Energy initially in Modern, and then kind of when Modern season rotated out for RCQs and Standard came up, kind of dove right into Standard. Now it's all he's been playing. Hasn't really been touching Modern as much. I remember we jammed like a friendly Modern game a while ago. He's like, this is the first time I've actually played this deck without the ring. And I'm like, oh, dude, the format's so different now.
Yeah, it's really different. Instead of having 200 energy decks in the room, you have 150 energy decks in the room. Oh, and there's this thing that, like, it's a dog and it blinks things. You might want to be playing it alongside the fact that, like, this black-white deck exists now. But that is for Modern, as we do have our players shuffling up and drawing. This is game number 2, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we know who actually won game number 1?
Oh, that was a
I'm
good
assuming
point.
it's Ting if Alwyn's putting
Exactly,
the
yeah.
thing down
Yeah, it looks like
first.
Ting got game number 1, which honestly makes sense. As a domain pilot myself, this was a matchup that took me a while to figure out. Fortunately, Ting actually gave me some coaching on it. The big way that Domain actually wins is by being the beatdown, weirdly enough. You need to turn the corner as soon as possible. So that way, you don't end up actually just getting completely drowned out by too many otters just getting infinitely big. We did get a rest in peace played instantly, so we're not going to have any town loops, and that's going to also shut off the enduring vitality from being able to come back. But it's not the most impactful play here, but it's something nice. It's going to at least make it a little harder for Ting to be able to go off.
Yeah.
As we do see talent coming out from a Thundertrap Trainer trigger.
Yeah, so Thundertrap Trainer comes on down. That finds the Stormchaser's talent. And as you were talking about before, Frenchie, why don't you just... I know there's a lot of motions for this deck, but what is that loop with this town ain't big enough that got shut off?
I believe the number you need to do it every turn is, what is it? It's doing the math. I think it's 7 mana to be able to to be able to play town, bounce your talent back to hand, and then replay your talent for 1 mana, level it up again to 4 to grab this town from your graveyard. You'll be able to bounce it every single turn when you have 7 mana, but when you have a bunch of creatures that every time you cast a non-creature spell, untap through a card such as the combination of Valley Floodcaller and Enduring Vitality, you're now just making infinite mana, and you're going to be able to do that infinite times, make infinite creatures, and at some point, they're just going to be too big, and you're going to, kill someone with like a 35 otter.
Yeah, I'm going to say, we wind up seeing here, it's basically like Just Guy Ascendancy at home, only more cute and cuddly and adorable. Meanwhile,
I kind of prefer that side of it.
but we wind up having that Valley Floodcaller being flashed in at end of turn from Ting here, as Alwyn did wind up playing that Overlord of the Hauntwoods, getting the Everywhere land, ramping himself up to 5 mana altogether. Now, Ting, this is the scary part from Ting's deck, because like you said, an Enduring Vitality, having that Stormchaser's talent in hand already, we have the Rest in Peace, but the problem is you could bounce that with this town.
Yeah, so we're kind of just I'm sure that on Ting's side, we're just kind of waiting for the opportune moment to just get that out of play and then be able to kind of do your loop, go off, and swing in for your final bit of damage. Right now, Alwyn's staring at 6 mana. Good spot for the Overlord's deck to be. There's a lot of different plays you can be doing here. It looks like we are spreading out 4 and 2, so I'm guessing we have a Day of Judgment coming out here. No, it's just going to be a Overlord of the Mistmoors. So this is the other primary Overlord the deck is running. We are focusing on the green and the white Overlords because the green one ramps us, fixes our colors, and the white one gives us tons of pressure and lots of bodies. It is, who would have thought that Grave Titan is still good in Standard, especially when it has flyers now.
Yeah, the 2/1 flying part of this creature is the one that really helps close out games super quickly. The fact that it just flies over the mice packages, it winds up blocking things like Spyglass Siren and anything Dimir decks we're going to be trying to do. So just adding that little bit of extra evasion really kind of helps things out here. We are just going to end up having that being slammed down here with 2 open mana, representing things like Ride's End, which has been an innovation recently, but also Ting, just no fear here, just throwing down the Stormchaser's talent, making some otters, and we'll see if Ting is going to wind up trying to go on the offensive or not.
Yeah, we have a second Valley Floodcaller and a land that was exiled to a Questing Druid, Seek the Beast. Looks like we are playing that land. Ting has been adding the new Verges into the deck, which, end up making the mana interesting, to say the least. And we still have that Valley Floodcaller in exile. I don't know if Ting's going to go all in and end up playing it, but it looks like, yeah, right now we are, yeah, looks like Valley Floodcaller's coming in.
Yep.
We're going to be getting a, I forget, do we get the untap trigger? Or it's
It's
yes.
a non-creature spell. Whenever they cast a non-creature spell. So Ting here is
No,
actually...
you do get it from birds, frogs, otters, and rats. Too.
Yeah. So Ting here flashing in this Valley Floodcaller. By the way, all that stuff that Ting did beforehand was end of turn. So because the Valley Floodcaller is allowing Ting to have non-creature spells granted flash. So now we have this town is big enough, bouncing 2 things here, including one of the Valley Floodcallers, so he's going to be able to deploy that at a later date, but winds up getting 2 untapped triggers and a prowess trigger off of that otter. So it's basically build your own Day of Judgment.
Yeah, and since we had 2 Valley Floodcallers, I actually really like this play from Ting. Play your Valley Floodcaller from exile and then just bounce it back to your hand. So now you can redeploy it later in case the first one gets answered by, say, a Sunfall or a Day of Judgment or whatever sweeper effects Alwyn's going to be bringing in.
Yeah, and now Alwyn does wind up having the turn passed over to him with Ting being tapped out, so there's no way for Ting to interact on the end step this time around, but we are going to wind up seeing, does Alwyn needs 1 more land to hit that very crucial 7 mana, although 5 mana is not too bad, like you said, for passing these like Sunfall or Day of Judgment.
Yeah, I think we're really seeing... Oh, there's the Zur turn, so now we are turning the corner, and I'm assuming we are going to animate a 7/7 Overlord of the Mistmores. Honestly, this one's the one that you always want to animate first because you get bodies, you get a much bigger creature. It goes from a 6/6 to a 7/7, and of course, all of the keywords that Zur gives you, the Death Touch, Hexproof, Lifelink. This guy's going to stay around for quite a while, and we're just going to flip life totals.
Yeah, so there we go. Just in the swing of one combat step there, Alwyn's going to be turning, well, first off, turning the 6/6 into a 7/7, which is fantastic. And then just getting a little bit of extra life here to buffer the life total. Now, knowing that there's a Valley Floodcaller in hand and this town, as well as a Stormchaser's talent, Alwyn is going to have to worry about blocks here because the rare version of the Otters deck is, even though you can turn this into a you have a combo for this deck to actually go, you can turn it into a tempo aggro style deck just by virtue of all of your non-creature spells having flash.
Yeah, and you just become super aggressive. You're able to continue to beat down with a lot of power on board. Looks like we're doing the same thing again, making sure both of our creatures survive by giving them 3 toughness while getting in for an additional 2 from the Thundertrap Trainer. So nice, slow, and patient. I'm assuming there is a reasonable chance that Ting's going to try and do a lot of stuff on Alwyn's end step, given that he's got the flash speed enabled. Let's see what Alwyn can do here to try and stabilize.
I mean, Ting basically has everything except for the Enduring Vitality face up. We know there's this town and the Stormchaser's talent in hand. You can eventually bounce this Rest in Peace, bounce your own Stormchaser's talent, and then untap and like go off. So Alwyn needs to kind of consider, like, what do you wind up doing here? Oh, we even see the Enduring Vitality in Ting's hand.
Yeah, and I think he's being really patient. He wants to make sure that Alwyn taps out completely, so that way we don't have, a Leyline Binding come down and not being able to interact with it. Just want to make sure that we are waiting until our opponent's tapped out before we truly try and combo off and win the game. Both players are playing pretty patient and just trying to figure out their lines. I'm not sure if Alwyn's declared anything. I saw him draw a card.
Yeah, I think it was just beginning of turn, and that's basically it. Now, one thing that Alwyn does do here is Alwyn can keep 2 mana available to animate the Rest in Peace.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Now we have the ability to hexproof the Rip, which is kind of big. It means that we're not going to be able to unlock those loops at all until we get rid of the Zur, which these colors aren't typically well known for doing outside of bouncing with town, but it's with how much mana Alwyn has, it's going to be replayed.
Each of them, they
Even bargaining a Torch the Tower at this point can't kill the 4 toughness on Zur, but we are going to have Ting starting a bunch of different things here. Second Valley Floodcaller comes down, flashing in the Stormchaser's talent as a non-creature spell, so that is going to give us 2 triggers and an Otter Prowess trigger.
Each spell is 4/3.
Yeah.
And this guy is +2.
Yeah, and it looks like we're all trying to figure out what the numbers are. I'm pretty sure Ting is just going to throw throw a bunch of the Otters that don't matter as much as the Floodcallers under the bus to be able to get rid of the Overlords. That way we can stop making those chump blockers and hopefully try and get in more damage on the following turn.
Yes, this is a 4/4 normal Otter and a 3/4 Thunder Trap Trainer, which is exactly 7 to wind up killing the Overlord. The Overlord does have Death Touch, so no matter what happens here, even if Ting gets any other activations, it's still going to wind up killing these Otters. So tapping the mana in a way that only just a Gruul land is available, no blue shenanigans left over for Ting this turn.
Yeah, it should be pretty clean. I don't think Alwyn has much that he can do right now. If there is a removal spell, looks like there wasn't, so we are going to be putting that in exile. We are going to be gaining a very nice chunk of life, going up to 25, making it even harder for Ting to be able to just, you know, go big and attack and be able to get the kill there. But this Overlord of the Hauntwoods is coming off of Impending this turn, and this one you want to have come off of Impending because it's a 6/5. It's a little bit bigger when you don't animate it, so, you know, can't complain here. Alwyn's going to be in pretty good shape. I think we are going to see possibly even another Overlord come in, and, you know, Miss Moore's number 2.
All right, so
Why not?
I guess that's why we don't care too much about that creature dying there. We are going to have a couple more insects coming in, so we have 8 power in the air, and it is going to be a little bit scary for Ting if he doesn't force these blocks coming in from Alwyn's side, because as you mentioned, the flying coming off of these Grave Titan-esque creatures is going to close out a game in just 2 turns at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, with being able to have a 6/5 and a 7/7 come in, that's going to be really powerful. We have another Thunder Trap Trainer hitting the board. We're going to go searching for something, and that's big. We get a Paw Patch formation. Now, this can take out an enchantment, or in this case, it's going to definitely be taking out a flying creature.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we kind of have our choice, too. Like, if something happens and Alwyn wants to animate the Mistmoors, we can destroy the Mistmoor in response, unless Alwyn has enough mana to reactivate it. Like you said, you can wind up killing some of these flying creatures. You can wind up killing... Basically, the Zur is also an option here, killing the 1/4.
Yeah, and it looks like we just had a quick surveil, another land into the graveyard. We have 4 mana left. Ting is in a really, really interesting spot because we do have a way to interact. However, we might want to... It seems like Ting's just kind of biding his time to wait on Alwyn to make a move first, as opposed to just fire off the Paw Patch right away, which kind of, to me, screams that he's actually trying to get the Mistmoors and not the Zur.
Yeah, as I say, kind of what you were talking about here is Alwyn does have a lot of ways that this deck can interact. Leyline Binding, Ride's End, and then board wipes as well. Even though Ting has been able to put a decent amount of pressure on Alwyn's board, Alwyn has just been playing off the top of his deck, playing the Zur, and then playing the double Overlord of the Mistmoors, and still has cards in hand that Ting has no idea what they are. So he can't just full commit to the board unless he has the win face up.
Have you cast any instants on sorcerers?
Interesting. We are deciding to swing with just a single Otter. Ah, there we go. Paw Patch on the Zur. So we're just trying to do this to get a trigger and negate, followed by a Spell Pierce.
Ooh, Spell Pierce. Kind of forgot that that was in Standard. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Aetherdrift, for re-putting that one.
I definitely have forgotten in Standard. Even though I am a domain player and I very much do not enjoy its existence, I also love the card and love that blue has access to this powerful effect. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of the blue analogy to Llanowar Elf. Kind of one of those like really high power level 1 mana cards. That's kind of the baseline of where you build in Standard. I was really surprised we didn't have in Foundations, but it's really good that it came back right away.
I guess maybe them thinking that, hey, eventually, if this is going to stay in Standard for 5 years, it might be too long. But Alwyn, passing the turn back over on his side, just going to wind up swinging on in here with absolutely everything getting aggressive.
I did that quite quick. I want to move to combat.
Combat's fine.
Yeah, okay. Then I'm
Okay, yeah, and players are just making sure that we are going through the steps in the right order. We are going to be making an Everywhere token, and yeah, 6 coming through in the air for sure. So that is another 2 turns, unfortunately, because we did miss out on one of the Otters. And we did end up taking out 1 Thunder Trap Trainer as well. Ting only has 2 cards in hand. That's a bit...
We know one of them is of this town. Not entirely sure what the other one is.
in hand for you?
I think...
Oh, no, this town wound up bouncing the other stuff before it got exiled, right?
Yeah, I think I think maybe one of them was like the super fancy disdainful stroke art from the Cowboy Bebop collab.
So then it might
And,
just be Enduring Vitality and Cowboy Bebop Dispel, or Cowboy Bebop Disdainful Stroke.
I don't know. Couple of spells.
We got a
We're
couple
all
of
guessing here.
Also, we have no idea what the other card in Alwyn's hand is either, face down above his graveyard right there.
Yeah, because Domain's also very good at, putting a bunch of stuff on the playmat, just like the Ours deck. Honestly, both of them are going to probably start invading each other's space when they truly pop off. Looks like Ting's being a homie, good sport here, letting Alwyn be able to go to 2 because we did miss the trigger last turn on the Miss Moors.
So what are
that
we
way
at
we
now?
can, get
Three,
online
that's
on
four.
time and all that stuff.
Each
We
spell
are
is
going
plus
to be
7.
going to attacks, and then
1,
we
2, 3,
have
4,
a
5,
Stormchaser's
6.
talent entering the fray.
Yeah, so that's going to be 2 Valley Floodcallers and a Prowess trigger from the Otter. So the Otter gets +3/+3, and the Valley Floodcallers will each get I believe +2/+2.
Yep.
And then... Ooh,
Oh,
get out.
that's
Okay,
what it
sounds
is. Okay, so we are bouncing both of our... We're attempting to bounce both of our enchantments and then replay both of them. This is a lot of damage.
Yeah, so every time we replay an inch, we have 3 damage twice over there, and
How
we're going
much
to
are
wind
we
up
at?
replaying them 2 more times. So that's going to get 4 total triggers.
21,
The
22,
Otter's going to get +12/+12, and everything else is going to wind up getting +8/+8.
And some
That's
talent is on the stack,
4,
right?
5 base damage.
this
Is that
order does not work.
Xaxes?
No,
If it's not Xaxes, it's
the first.
damn close.
Valley
bouncing
Floodcaller
it
is a
again,
2/2,
and-
correct?
And the cards
Yeah,
in
it's
hand
a
right
2/2.
now
That's
are-
Xaxes.
There was one that you spent, and there's another one that is another Stormchaser's talent, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
The get
so,
outs,
you don't
yeah, I
know
think
about
we're
one
just
of
kind of doing the math here
You
because we
cast get out,
had
right?
I have a
one
Stormchaser.
Stormchaser's
You have a
cast,
there were 2 on the
then the
battlefield,
get
right?
out,
So
and
one
then
on the
we
hand,
can
two
cast
Stormchasers.
2 more Stormchaser's
Okay,
talents.
I don't know if we can. We don't have the other blue.
So I will-
Unfortunate. We're stifled by our own mana, but we also have Leyline Binding, which we expected.
Never mind.
Removes,
Yeah, how much are we talking about?
removes 8.
Okay.
And it looks
then
like the
how much are we
Leyline Binding
talking
will
about?
resolve. There's nothing that we can do about that. Just
left
go
over
to
damage.
1 mana
And there's
O-Ring at instant
2
speed when you
orders
have
on the way,
Domain.
per se.
Not a completely
One more
overpowered
order
card for
on the way
standard right
after
now.
that, right?
All right, that Leyland Binding is huge, though, because otherwise, even without the extra
Think about
Stormchaser's
it.
talent, we're taking a representative 10 from the Otter token, and then
Thinking about
there's
Thinking about
8 total damage per Valley Floodcaller. So that
it's
would have
just
been
enough.
a lot. That still would have been lethal,
When you
actually.
look at those
So
orders,
yeah,
they're
the
on
Leyline Binding here coming in clutch.
Yeah, and honestly, because of just how everything works, there's no
Cannot have 5.
there's no reason to do it even earlier, just
know
because
why I sent this guy.
there isn't really anything to actually,
And I'll
you know,
take
be able
whatever
to protect yourself because the instant speed
so
interaction that you're getting from the
3
Valley
times 3,
Floodcaller.
9.
However, during one of the
to 15.
one of the tap and untaps, we are going to be able to Ride's End. Oh no, actually
We just
we're
hardcast it
hardcast
for
it for
5,
5.
yeah.
We have the mana for it, so who cares, right? All right, cool. So we ended up just playing the Questing Druid at end of turn, and we have 3 Otters now that are still kicking it, down to 15. Pretty big swing, but we got rid of both Valley Floodcallers, and only 2 cards left for Ting again.
That Overlord of the Hauntwoods is underneath the Leyline Binding?
Yeah, interesting. I don't think it would be attacking anyway, because
Probably
we
not.
do want a blocker back, but that's... You know, who knows? It'll be fine. Maybe we'll find it. I think Alwyn's just kind of like at the end stages closing the game. We only have a few cards in hand, but we are still pretty safe for the most part because we did. Oh, there's the Beza, and I think we are out of cards, so we do get a card off of this.
Yeah,
but
so
that's really all we get.
We draw 1. That's all we could offer for Beza.
Yeah. Not too bad, 4 or 5 draw a card, and especially in the board state that Ting has, is pretty good here. It's going to represent a good blocker, and I can see if Ting doesn't have a good line following up, I can see a concede. Yep, we're going to be going to game number 3.
All right, so that Rest in Peace actually wound up being a little bit more of a hindrance to Ting's game plan than we thought it was going to be. Basically shutting off the this down ain't big enough loop enough, and then Ting not finding an additional one and having to go the combat damage route, and there was just too many bugs in this guy.
I mean, That was honestly really close. No, we were presenting a lethal board state. Fortunately, Alwyn did have the 2 removal spells, which very smartly was saving up for a big combat step to try, or probably also trying to exile one of those Enduring Vitalities as well. Because, you know, we couldn't really do much. We already saw 2 Floodcallers in play. Like, we can't really interrupt that part of the combo.
So I haven't seen
But
my
if there's only
first
1 Vitality and we get rid of it, we're probably in a good shape there.
Yeah. So now we are going into game number 3. I think the players are not going to be really sideboarding too much because we probably already have them bringing in everything that they want to see. We wound up seeing Ting Feng bringing in the probably Spell Pierce, most likely not a hard main deck card when you have so many cards in the Otters deck that you really want to play in game number 1 to make the deck hum. Also, we saw the Pop Hatch formations. Those are definitely sideboard cards that wound up coming in. Torch to Towers might have been something that were in the main deck that came out for Spell Pierces in this matchup. But on the flip side for Alwyn, how are you sideboarding as the domain deck against the Temur Otters deck? Since we have you right here, you can just tell us.
Rest in peace.
Beza for sure. Beza is a really important card, especially if you have an additional one in the sideboard. If you have any sort of small sweepers, such as a pest control or any temp lockdowns, that's for sure coming in because it's just going to be able to blow out a lot of what Ting is doing with the Otter tokens and the Stormchaser talents. It is a little fragile because it does get bounced by the towns, but honestly, still just getting rid of all the Otter tokens, which is just effectively Ting's infinite mana engine, is good enough. And of course, we saw the recipes come in, which kind of disrupts the town loops that exists. Some folks do bring it in, some folks don't. I personally lean on the side of I don't, but that's because I have different things I want to be interacting in the game plan. Every domain pilot kind of has their own flavor of how they kind of go about the deck. Some are a little more mid-rangey aggressive and try and like slam Zer down and start attacking right away. Others take a little more backseat control approach. So, and unfortunately, we're kind of forced to go into that mid-rangey aggressive seat as the domain player in this matchup.
Yeah. So how are you thinking when Ting's deck can just kind of combo you out pretty quickly? You are now on the draw in this matchup. Is there anything that's in your opening hand that you are specifically looking for that you might not have kept if you were on the play?
Even more so interaction. You really need a way to kill like any of the early primary threats or engine pieces that Ting can be deploying. You really need that Get Lost or the Ride's End or being able to get a cheap leyline binding pretty quickly, whether it's through the surveillance that you're able to play or just being able to MP an Overlord on turn 3. But even sometimes that could be a little slow.
Right, so Ting did mention that he was going to be keeping that hand, whereas Alwyn looks like they are going to be mulliganing. And unfortunately, the mulligan broke our camera. So
Yeah.
we'll get that fixed up in just a second.
Go ahead and reload it.
But there we go. Broke the world and put everything back into his hand here. So Alwyn not liking the chances of keeping whatever was in his hand against Ting's 7. And as we mentioned, Ting's deck can wind up going fast. We wind up seeing Stormchaser's talent, Thundertrap Trainer, Valley Floodcaller on end step, and then at that point, if you play an Enduring Vitality, you have all these starting to untap triggers, you float mana and everything, you can basically go off from that point in time. So that's what Alwyn has to kind of be considering here when you're going through those mulligans. Ting, in the meantime, though, doesn't look like his hand has a lot of those things. It has at least one Gruul land at the front, and they do wind up seeing a blue interactive spell. But
I think I also saw an Analyze the Pollen too, so I'm assuming we're going to get our blue source off of that, and, you know, it's not the most... At least from what we've seen, it's not the most explosive peak, but it's consistent. And I think that's also what's perfectly valid here. Make sure you have a consistent opener. Now, Analyze the Pollen's a really key card in this deck, especially when it's not shut off by a Rest in Peace. Usually you're just fetching a land with it, nice and easy, being able to fix your mana. You can take the spot of some of your land cards. However, in the mid to late game, you're going to collect evidence and tutor one of your 2 combo pieces directly into your hand and hopefully be able to just basically cast it for a 1 mana attack straight from your deck.
All right, so we have Analyze the Pollen into using that island to cast Thundertrap Trainer. We get to look at the top 4, and we whiff. Ooh, that's not where you want to be.
Yeah, Ting and I actually ended up playing twice in the RCQ over the weekend, and he mentioned that he feels like he's been whiffing more than usual, even though he does have the same spell count. So he should still have the same amount of hits, but just, you know, luck's not in his favor. And honestly, all of us Magic players kind of go through one of those funks where it feels like the luck isn't really on your side, and you kind of have to go through the motions and just do your best with what you're given. And yeah.
Well, Ting has been given a third land, which surveilled down an additional Thundertrap trainer. So, just saying, well, the first one didn't work out. I don't need any more of you. I did think I saw a Get Out in hand, but that's going to be double blue, so that's not quite online yet. Looks like maybe having that Disdainful Stroke as well. Alwyn on the flip side, though, played that up the beanstalk and has been surveilling away all of these lands, so you're assuming that eventually he's going to just have gas.
Yeah, I'm assuming that we're also probably a land full of hands, or a handful of lands. Good lord, that's a funny
Same
way
thing.
to say it.
All right, well, this land full of hands is about to throw down an impending Overlord off of that Cavernous Soul, so that's not going to be able to be counterspelled whatsoever. And there come the two moths like that to a flame. Ting Fang, though, end step going to be flashing in that Valley Floodcaller like we saw in the previous games. Now we'll have to see what the follow-up is here, because untapping and getting a lot of power and toughness can be kind of scary here.
Yep. I will say one thing, just to note, the way Alwyn draws his cards with a lot of emphasis and gusto, very, very powerful stance here. Really trying to, puff his chest a little bit and try and show his presence at the table with the Overlords coming in and all the extra draw triggers.
Well, you see, it's because of those Ultra Pro sleeves, which if you want to get 5% off, you can go to ultrapro.com shop and use code OTTV. You get 5% off your own sleeves right there, and you can draw just like Alwyn can. #ad. Flip side, though, Ting Fang just wound up playing a Copperline Gorge tapped after using that op to, again, act as basically a board wipe here, as these Otters are turning into copies of the Abyss against Alwyn's ever-growing onslaught of insects.
Yeah, and it looks like we do have a crowd gathering around what looks to be one of, if not the last match going. So pretty exciting here. We got not only a crowd here on the stream, but also another crowd here at the store. Alwyn's playing patiently and trying to figure out what I believe what his land drop's going to be. And then let's see what he ends up doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things you could do here. Do you wind up just going for a board wipe to deal with what Ting has, and then or do you try to play around Spell Pierce, Disdainful Stroke, Negate? You know that Get Lost isn't up. Oh, sorry, Get Out isn't up right now, but I mean, there's still a bunch of different things that Ting could have by keeping up that 2 mana, but you want to do something to advance your board state.
Yeah. So a temp lockdown here is only really going to be getting the Thundertrap trainer, so we only really have the Floodcaller, and it's going to put our own Beanstalk under it.
Oh, well, we forgot our impending trigger.
Yeah. Unfortunate. But looks like we are on turn 1, so we did hit time. I don't know if there's going to be a way for us to be able to wrap this up in, the amount of turns, unless Ting's able to put together an explosive turn coming up. Though Alwyn can play Azur and start going to town.
Yeah, as I say, I think Alwyn needs to kind of play Azur this turn, activate the impending Overlord, and then start swinging in order to deal enough damage, since Ting is still at 20 with this Valley Floodcaller tapped out. Rest in Peace isn't going to quite do it to win the game, but this is going to make it so that Ting's winning the game is going to be a lot harder.
Yep.
Now, Owen realizing that he missed the one impending trigger there, which would have brought the Overlord off impending on the his last possible turn.
Yeah, and it looks like as soon as a spell is cast, we are Leyline Binding the Valley Floodcaller. We did cast a Song of Totentons, though, which is a X spell that makes a bunch of rats. This time, we are getting, I believe it is that 3 or 4 rats?
I think it's 3, because it's X and then 1 red.
Yes.
So Ting is going to wind up having 3 rat tokens, but without the Valley Floodcaller, they are not going to be pumped up at all.
No, and we have 2 turns to swing in to try and get the KO here. I don't know if we're gonna have enough damage, especially if we don't have the Floodcaller in hand. Down to 13. We do. Oh, that's kind of huge.
Oh, is that the fade to...
Yep, Fade into History, I believe, is the name of the card. This has been coming in clutch for a lot of players that are just, really not enjoying all of the domain pilots coming through. I believe it's Fade into History.
I guess you guys don't have a bear stone, do you?
Yeah, we should be pulling it up for you shortly. We are at least going to get
bears on it. That's what I
Yeah,
know.
we are going to at least get a 2/2 bear. You can't complain. But yeah, other than that, Ting does get a Thundertrap trainer trigger, and hopefully next turn can put together that final bit of damage to close it out. 13, it's pretty close.
Stormchaser from
So there's a 2/2 bear That's on Alwyn's side. That's basically all he's got left, and this up the beanstalk that wound up drawing the card. Ting now has a Valley Floodcaller and a Thundertrap trainer. The Valley Floodcaller is going to be able to pump up rats, otters, and
You know, if there is a random
everything.
bird or
Yeah.
frog in the deck, I don't think there is one. I know Ting is a big fan of Splash Portal, though. That one has at least art of a frog.
yeah, that's true. Okay, so it's frogs, otters, rats, and birds. So these 1/1 rats are basically like the otter tokens without prowess. So now Alwyn is thinking here, how do I not lose? Because if Tin Fang untaps with multiple cards in hand, all we have to do is cast, let's see, you can block the 2/2, the Valley Floodcaller, but then that's 4 damage coming in without any pumps, and every spell you cast is 4 more. So 3 spells from Ting will win the game.
Yeah, and I saw for sure Stormchaser's talent, which is a really good first one to have, and I think I see a few more as well.
It's
There's
definitely cards in hand.
yeah, there's cards in hand, and I think we missed a land drop or two, so probably action. Hopefully action that's going to be able to get the close here.
I'm wondering if Ting is going to have to go into the mode of I counterspell my own thing to win the game.
Oh wow! So we are playing a kicked Terra Sunder to exile the Valley Floodcaller. This is desperation mode to not lose. Definitely not a game-winning play by all means, but this is Alwyn just basically saying, I'm almost dead. I need to let this be able to go to exile, get out of here, and yeah. Looks like we just got the Otter in play, so now we only really have 5 damage minus any spells coming in from Prowess, but we're not going to get nearly as big of a board.
Yeah, without the Valley Floodcaller on our board, it's danger zone. I don't know if Ting's gonna be able to close this game out. There's 13 damage needs to be dealt. There's 1 blocker.
I see a town at least, so yeah, I think he's doing some of the prowess math because town's gonna get the blocker out of the way, which is good, and then we can replay the Stormchasers for 2 prowess triggers, which gets us up to 3. I don't think we have enough mana to be able to do everything. There is also the funny line of possibly trying to spell pierce your own thing to be able to get another prowess trigger. That would be fun.
At that point, though, we're still only at 8 damage face up on the table from Tim Fang's side, and yeah, it just kind of shows the hand.
Double disdainful stroke. That's awkward.
It's get out this town, spell pierce, disdainful stroke, disdainful stroke. So Ting just has all interaction.
This is the last turn. I can deal.
Yeah, and it looks like our players, they are ending in a tie. They're going to decide how they would like to report this match.
Yeah, that's always the fun part here is now that the players have tied, this is super standard. So at the end of the month, we do have a larger prize pool for top 4. So having that undefeated record at the end of everything is going to be very
I don't know
important.
if like a 3-0-1 could like.
Yeah, I think our players are trying to figure it out just because
I don't think
the
the draw is
0-1
good
might
for
end up
either
being
of us,
good for both
really.
of them, but any loss is
Obviously,
going to
it
put
is
them
better
completely out of
than a
contention.
loss.
So who knows how they end up
Which is why
deciding.
I'm asking.
Yeah, so we are just going to
Yeah.
wind up
But
seeing
if you
how
don't
players
want
want
to,
to
it's
resolve
okay
this,
with
and
me.
basically
I could've
they are the
played
last match of the
Overlord
round, so that does mean
last
that we are
time,
going to
which
be
would have meant I
all
was
set
dead
here
probably.
for
Yeah, if you
round
play
number
Overlord, you're
1
dead.
at our first super standard of ever being broadcast.
Yeah,
It's
we
like-
did some RCQs, and they are fun. Don't
Yeah.
get us wrong, but it's really cool to be able to have a weekly coming through every week.